All right. Welcome to All Things DB YouTube. So, let me introduce myself first and foremost. My name is Coach Tyrone Vance. I've been playing the game, watching the game, coaching the game for about 40-something years. I'm trying to make this video now because I see so many kids that are not fundamentally sound. If you want to change up and play press and zone and everything else, you guys need to at least learn how to be fundamentally sound. Why you want to be fundamentally sound? Because having the proper fundamentals, like any sport, is very important. And I don't care what sport you're playing. So same thing holds true for football. There's a fundamental-based process that defensive backs must adhere to because they could depend on it, rely on it, and trust it majority of the time. So that's why I'm making it. I watch the games, especially the last playoff games, and these guys are in the pros, and I know it's not really their fault. They wasn't taught how to play fundamentally sound. So they're going to make a lot of mistakes no matter how athletic you are. Fundamentals in football is the same as having the right fundamental bat swing, hand-eye, bat-eye coordination when you're hitting that baseball coming at you 180, 90 miles an hour in the batter's cage. You got to get your timing down. Same thing with, you can look at basketball. Shooting jumpers over thousands of jumpers in order to be proficient at it. So what I want to do, I'm going to explain a little bit about myself, my background, and why my fundamental process that was taught to me by Coach Charles Terry. I'm going to explain a little bit about him and what he taught me. And I just went to work and followed his instructions and perfected it to the point where it was very difficult to even catch a pass on me. Now, I'm going to explain why. First of all, my name is Tyrone Vance. I started my football career in Detroit Chatsey under the tutelage of Coach Charles Terry. He was a defensive back coach. He actually took me out the receiver line. I wanted to play a little bit of receiver. I like defense too. But he pulled me out. He said that I was born to play the defensive back position. So whatever he saw in me, I'm glad he saw it. So listen to your coach. Your coach might know a thing or two because they've been in the game a little longer than you guys, especially you guys coming up. So once I learned this fundamental process of how to play the defensive back position, it got me in college. And when it got me in college, it got me in the starting lineup. And when it got me in the starting lineup, I only played about 14 games through 4 years of college. Didn't play as a freshman, played very little as a sophomore, got injured in my junior year, and they cut us down to 8 games my senior year, so I never really played too many games, 14 total. But out of those 14 total games, I recorded 9 interceptions just by using a fundamental process and working it over and over and building up the proper muscle memory so I can see that ball and play those angles. So now let's get into it. We're going to go take it step by step. I talk a little bit about the fundamentals that Coach Terry first taught me. There's many other points to this, but what he first told me, he told me you got to be a certain distance from the receiver. I used to go back. If you go back and look at those old tapes, Raiders, they was pressing way back then. But it was a lot different game back then. It was advantageous to press. They slowed the receivers up getting off the ball, and that gave their cover 2 safeties an advantage of reading run or pass. If it was pass, then now they could take a straight beat. A lot of times those guys wasn't even looking to intercept the ball. They just wanted to knock the receiver out. But we can't do that now to a certain degree, a lot of degree, because all the rules changed and they're more aggressive with their pass calling. So now it's even more important to know your fundamentals because you got to be able to read routes now. You got to be able to read receivers' waist to foot. You got to have to use your peripheral vision now. You got to become a technician now if you want to have success in this game. All passes under any pass under 7 yards or less should be played on angles. make that 8 yards. Should be played at angles. So here's why. So you basically want to be 4 yards off the receiver. That's perfect if you're in the average of what a DB receiver is, which is 4.48 seconds. So if you within 4.48 or less, then you can afford to play. You can afford to play off the receiver 4 yards. Now, another little key pointer: your stance. When you watching that receiver's foot, if his left foot is up and that's that inside foot facing the quarterback, then your first step backwards should be with your left foot. Now you're on a perfect cadence with this guy. So you had a perfect cadence with him, because it's really like a dance. It's not where the man is at, it's where the ball is being thrown is what you want to work on and how to get there. So and we match our timing with their timing, because let's face it, quarterbacks and receivers practice timing routes over and over again. I never seen a slant ran like an out. I never seen an out ran like a slant. All those routes are designed. So when I teach you guys how to set the drills up, the drills is going to be set up for each single route that they run, and I believe I put in there the variations of those routes. So if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be 16 additional YouTube videos, because each route is designed by its own. So you have to practice that one route over and over and over again, and you have to practice it to perfection, and then it builds in it retains in your muscle memory. Now you can react on receivers' routes within milliseconds, and that's where you want to be at the end of doing each drill. You want to build that correct muscle memory. Now, so as the receiver releases off his route, he's going to give off cues, predeterminations of what's happening next. So I know if he's outside the numbers or at the numbers, he probably wants something inside. If he's inside the numbers, if you're at the hash mark or inside of the numbers, he probably wants something on the outside. So all I'm doing is backpedaling, giving him some space so I can read his route. You guys are really too close to him, and I know you're trying to press, but I don't know if you guys looking at the same thing I'm looking at. A lot of times you guys not even touching that receiver, because they've already looked at film. So they know how to release, and they know your weak points, because they watch film too. They know what you fall for, what you're susceptible to. Like if they attack your inside shoulder, they know you're susceptible for an inside shoulder move. They'll give you a jab outward. They'll come back in and attack your inside shoulder till they get you stacked. Once they stack you, bam, they'll plant that inside foot and take that back to the flag. But once they stack you, that's a wrap. It's so hard to get stacked when you 4 yards off and you take your read step. So by the time they get 4 yards, I'm about 7 to 8 yards back already. So now I can read and see, and I'm using my peripheral vision. I can feel whether it's pass or run. And all I'm doing is I got to maintain my focus on that receiver's waist and his foot. That's going to dictate where he's going to go. Now, I was always taught to maintain a 2-yard cushion within those 7, 8 yards. The reason why we wanted to always maintain at least a 2-yard cushion, because I got to give myself a chance to recover if the ball is not being thrown. So I always look for that ball coming out. If I see ball coming out and waist commitment. So when that receiver hit that foot hit, he make a 45-degree angle with his waist, and I see ball starting to come out, that arm motion of the quarterback with my peripheral vision, then I'm breaking on to spot where he's throwing the ball. I know he's probably throwing a slant. And I'm going on the shorter routes right now. So same thing, if the inside, and by looking at film too, they like to run certain routes and certain down and distances. That gives me another clue. But if he come out and that inside foot hit and he try to attack my outside shoulder, then I know he probably want to run that out. So, but I still got maintain my 2-yard cushion. So if it is and that ball is coming out, immediately I'm changing direction. Now, changing direction. Let's talk about that for a minute. When you change direction and when you're practicing, and you'll see it in the drills when I show how to set up the drills, but you got to change direction in straight line angles. We plan on triangles, so we're going at a straight line. That gives me a good chance to get to that ball the same time as the receiver. So I'm changing direction. I'm coming out the blocks. Every time my back foot hit, my toes is pointed. Both my front foot is pointed toward the spot where I want to get to. And I'm going like a world-class sprinter when I change direction so I can get there when he get there. And here again, I always say, if you can do your moves and go hard, but if ball not out, expect a double move. That's all that means. Expect a double move. So you gotta practice the double moves as well, in which I describe how to go about practicing the double moves as well. But once you start practicing that, it's just like hitting that baseball. It's easier to check a receiver who's running about 15 miles an hour initially coming off the line of scrimmage than it is to hit an 80, 90 mile an hour fastball, slider, curveball. You don't know what's coming. But when it does come, you got to be able to react to it very quickly. So that's the same way how we check receivers when they're running their routes. But I'm going to have all the drills that you need to set up for the post route, post corner route, go route. I'm going to have all that set up. So all you got to do is listen to the additional modules that I'm going to release. And then you can perfect your game. And what's going to happen is you're not even going to realize it until you start going up with other receivers and say, wow, you keep getting there. You keep getting there. You keep getting there because you believed in the process. You stuck to the process. You followed the process so you can become fundamentally sound. The other advantage is instead of just having a press cover type move, you give them two. Sometimes you'll press him, sometimes you'll bag off of him and get in your fundamental stance, 4 yards off the ball. It throws their timing off because that's essentially what we're trying to do. That's just another way of throwing their timing off. He got all the receiver, I know what I'm going to do. I got my moves ready. I just saw this on film, and then you bag off. Now he got to think of, now you got to change your game up. Now how you going to beat me? You're not going to beat me off the line of scrimmage. You got to work on getting to your spot. So right then and there, you threw his timing off and you threw the quarterback's timing off. So I want to go over, so I done went over pretty much everything I wanted, but I wanted to cover foot placement because that's very important. Where you go, where your foot go, you go. So always remember that. So you gotta, when you change direction, anything under 7, 8 yards, you gotta make sure your foot is pointed toward where you want to go. That's very important. But if you practice that the correct way over and over again, you will have it down pat. I'll give you an example of the go route. When they run in the go route, generally I don't have any more cushion because a receiver can run faster forward than a DB can go backwards. But I want to bag up now. That's why you practice an explosive back pedal. That's on one of the drills that I'm going to be showing you guys how to set up. You got to you will never have an explosive back pedal if you don't work on it. And understand this, football, especially for a defensive back, it's about going fast backwards and fast forward. It's nothing slow about football, nothing about slow reading. The slower you read, the slower you react. So you got to play fast in football. So let's talk about hand placement because that's another thing that I see that just too many holding penalties. The reason why you don't practice where your hands should be. So your hands, when the receiver is running past you, your hands should be placed right on his hip pad. The back of your knuckles. I used to always have the back of my knuckles on the back of his hip pad because I believe I could run with anybody. And yes, I was a 4.3 guy back then and didn't even work out. Not on running or sprinting or running track. I didn't do none of that. But could come out and run a 4.3 40. And I broke, if I'm not mistaken, I broke the record in our quickness drill. So I was not only that fast, but I was quick as well. But a lot of you guys are faster, or quicker. You guys work on it now. And you're looking at 6-figure salaries coming out. Shoot, we was thinking about working instead of playing football because the money wasn't really there back then. And if you didn't have a really good chance, it was always a dream, but we had to go make that money. And back then, we didn't even think it was worth the risk back then. But in any event, let's move on. So we talked about the hand placement, and I said, like, if his hip come to you and he making an inside move, like on a dig route or a post route, something of that nature, if your hand is on his hip, you always are in striking distance. Always in striking distance. And I talk about where you need to be placement-wise so you can make a play on that football when the receiver makes his move and you identify what his move is. If you're in striking distance, you can make a play on the ball. But like my coach Terry told me, if you're not in position, son, you can't make a play on the ball anyway. So it's position first, ball second. So I always practice on getting in position. Deeper route, let's say that go route. That's a favorite route they like to run. But when he's coming past me, I'm flipping my hips and I'm flipping them quick. And then, but my fingers, the back of my knuckles is right on his hip pad, right? Right on his hip pad. Because when you want to stay right in good position when they running that go route, right in his chest, his numbers, I can see his ear hole, I can see his face mask on his helmet, and I hold position. And I run full speed. I just lift my head up and look over my shoulder because that's where the ball is coming. But I want to make sure he can't push off on me. So when I'm running with him, he can't really push off, because I'm right there. It'll be too obvious if I hold my position. That's what I like to do. If he did get a hand on me, I just do my little swim move. He hit here, I go over the top and stay right over the top looking for that football. So it's all these little bitty nuanced techniques that you have to perfect in order to be a great defensive back. And you got to have the mindset. You have to want to be the best in the world at playing DB. You got to say, I want to be the best DB in the world. I'm going to practice my fundamental drills. If you're going to use press, I suggest you get better at that. And I don't really like to teach press because it puts me into a vulnerable state. And I don't like being in a vulnerable state. I like to be in control of the situation. So just some more about my credentials. I never allowed a pass over 15 yards as long as I've been playing. I only allowed 4 passes my entirety of playing, and that includes high school as well as college. So I got 5 interceptions in high school. I ended up with 9 interceptions. 9 interceptions in college. And like I said, I didn't play a lot of games, but I definitely was a proficient defensive back at not letting the ball touch the receiver's hands. So only 4 balls touched the receiver's hands. 4. The longest was 15 yards. That was caught on me twice by the same receiver who ended up going pro and playing professionally for about 7 years. So, yeah, you're gonna meet up with some good competition, but that's all he caught. He couldn't beat me on the slant, couldn't beat me on the out. I was just too much quicker than he was, and I can get to the ball quicker and faster than him and find that point, attack that football, the point of that football before he can get there. Or a lot of times the quarterback wouldn't throw the ball because it wasn't what they want to see. They used to seeing these receivers wide open, one, and they used to defensive backs not even knowing where the ball is at. I've never not known where the ball is at. I can always see that football. You got to always be able to see the ball. The quicker you get in position, the quicker you can react to the football and attack that football. I would advise not. I know you guys trying to protect against the back shoulder fade, so you kind of facing the receiver. But these guys are huge nowadays. They ain't gonna do nothing but box you off with their big body, and when the ball go up and you can't see it neither, he just gonna catch the ball. The quarterback gonna throw it up high, right over your head, right above your head. These quarterbacks is about as accurate as an Olympic archer these days. So you gotta be. That's why we have to be to perfection. So I don't like facing up a receiver. I don't like a receiver getting into my body. He ain't gonna do nothing but put his body in between me and the point where he wants to get to. Now I got to go around this guy, this big body guy, to get to where the ball is going. I play off of him. And if I see you making a move going toward that spot, I'm getting to that spot the same time, if not sooner, than you. And that gives you your best opportunity to stop that pass, to make it an incomplete instead of completion. Now the 2-yard cushion is for a double move. Ball not coming out. He makes another move with his inside foot. Now that's a double move. Now I know you're going back on the outside. Here's another thing. I've never seen a receiver plant his foot one way. I can't do it. It's impossible. To plant a foot one way and go the opposite way. Once that foot stick out and plant, you got to plant your foot just to get to a different spot. So you look for those feet planting. That's going to tell you he got to go there. If momentarily, if he want to go somewhere else, he got to plant his foot again. So, and it's a timing thing. They only have so much time to get rid of that football. And like I said, if everything goes true, they working on their timing routes, then we're going to be there right when the receiver gets there. Those corner routes, when they run those corner routes, they run that post. You right in position with your fingers. Visualize this. I'm right there in position with my fingers right on his butt pad, his hip pad, and I'm trying to attack that elbow, get to that elbow, and I'm waiting on that ball to get there. I'm right in position to make a play. I can see the ball coming out. I can get to that point. I just want to be able to get to the point of that ball. If I can't get to that point of that ball, oh man, that's a bad feeling. And I couldn't do it basically. It got to be just a great catch, and I was right there. But I'd rather be right there 99% of the time than just saying, dang, I wasn't even in the area. That's a bad feeling. So if he run that post route and try to go back to the flag corner route, then your hand is already in place because his hip is going to lead you to the football. You're in perfect position. You're going through his numbers. You're looking up for that ball the same way he has to look up for that ball. Same direction. Always look in the same direction that the receiver is looking up. All right, so I went over that enough. Any comments? Great, I'll take them. I'll check my YouTube and try to comment back. If anybody want to reach out by email, it's my email address is cannotgetbeat@yahoo.com. Cannotgetbeat@yahoo.com. And I can respond that way as well. Just want to leave this out there, how I got fundamentally sound. I look at Steph Curry, them, they shooting basketball jumpers the same way their fathers did. And I watched their fathers play back in the 70s and 80s. And they doing it the same way. Fundamentals don't change, bro. Some fundamentals always stay the same. All right, that being said, thanks for tuning in. Peace out.